Afrofuturism is the cultural movement that intersects music, visual art, literature, politics, science fiction.
There's a way of seeing Black people thriving and surviving in the future context and being the masters of technology rather than being the tools.
It is the high culture of the African diaspora and how people of African descent operate with agency.
What if, in fact, we thought of the experience of African Americans as not just rigidly historical and connected to slave ships and pyramids, etc.? What if we also added the metaphor of space travel, the metaphors of technology and robotics? Not only would that revise how we remember race, but also it would give us a vision of the future in which Black people played a central and significant part.
How do you know I'm real?
Yes.
I'm not real, I'm just like you.
I guess the very first person I think of for Afrofuturist music, of course, is Sun Ra, because he, was a man from the South, from the Jim Crow South. And he actively remade himself into this wonderful astral being, right?
He is, in one sense, wearing the symbols of the Egyptian god Ra, but he's also articulating himself as being an alien, saying that he's technically from Saturn.
I am Sun Ra.
If I had to swim to the depths of the darkest sea, narrowly escape horizon, I'll swim crocodile, resurface to shore after 3 days of storm, and one last breath to say to thee, I would say, I will not let them take my love away from me. I will get by the love that has to be. I will rely on the high energy. I will get by on my only prophecy. Just like the light was right for you, it was set aside for me. My birthright all day, all night, and in due time, you'll see. I will not let them take my love away from me. I will not let them take my, I will not let them take my, I will not let them take my love away, love away. I will not let them take my. We've been in it for a minute and I just had to let you know what it's hitting for. Loving you ain't no inconvenience to me, 'cause I got my own when I roll, I'm rolling on.
Ladies and gentlemen and boys and girls of all ages, get ready for the Goddess Glow Up. And all we need is for you to show up for the premiere of Goddess Mobile TV featuring me, Poetica, your hostess with the mostest, Brooklyn Free Speech TV HD hostess for Goddess Mobile every week, featuring this season on Verizon, Channel 47, Spectrum, formerly Time Warner, Channel 1993, and Optimum, formerly Cablevision, 951 in Brooklyn, New York. And worldwide streaming at brickartsmedia.org/HD. You can see me, Norman Connors, a list of artists, performers, musicians for this travel lifestyle and live music conscious culture television show every week. And worldwide, online. Poetica service announcement. This message was brought to you by Verizon, Time Warner, Spectrum, and Optimum Cable. Also, Goddess Mobile TV. Thank you.
To my media assassin, Harry Allen, I gotta ask him.
Yo, Harry, you're a writer. Are we that tight?
Don't bully the hype.
In 2003, just after Eminem's movie 8 Mile came out, Harry published an essay in The Source called The Unbearable Whiteness of Emceeing. It was a really formative piece of writing for me. It's a brilliant piece on cultural appropriation and whiteness in hip-hop, and it was published long before those types of conversations were as mainstream as they are today.
Think of Greg Tate's book, Everything But the Burden, in which the subtitle of which I think was What White People Want from Black Culture. I think of Leroy Jones, better known as, or later known as Amiri Baraka, stuff that he wrote about jazz in The White Critic, which was very influential on me.
Persona that is beyond what your civilian life might have been. So much of the project of Public Enemy and your own work is about flipping that narrative.
Certainly, first of all, pointing out to the futurism even of that image, that in the 30 years since P started making records, that image has not become outdated. It's become, it seems, even more pressing, you know, as we hear seemingly from everywhere instances of violence, and particularly police violence and brutality against unarmed black people, especially black males.
But today's Cypher is in honor of the Afrofuturist Cypher. We giving big ups, you know what I mean, to Goddess Mobile TV, Poetica Bay, the creator and curator, and we're in there, 24 elders.
How we do it in the Cypher. We come together like element forces, spark like a lighter, torches lit, show you a path, light the way. It's a good day to live just as well die, so I continue to soar high. Miles above the limitation, they find themselves subjected under. Represent the East Lightning, verbal thunder. Take them under, make them wonder how we do it in the cycle. When we drop science and build, oratorically, verbally think, hook a line sing, undecided catch, naked visits with blink. My infinite top thinking, top ranking, keep me weighing in this mental mic fight. 7.50 cc's, just blowing off the east wind as me moves in. The reason is the bones of the valley started to rattle.
This is nuclear fusion, lifting the mist, correcting all confusion. Adept at vocals and producing, 10,000 hours focused on improving. The thesis and conclusion, the reason for the intrusion of free thinkers and hoodlums. Baseline data sequences looping, duct tape translucent. Excuses cause delusions, mental pollution, stopping all your movement. Ruin any hustle of your choosing. Most common form, sex and amusement. You ain't pursue it just to lose it. Spit facts and prove on which tracks and moving. And if this verse confusing, it must be that you snoozing.
I'm coming with the rhymes on time to flip the dimes, so let's get all nines. I'm rolling, it's how to take a plan off the knife, playing it off the sofa centers, and I'm still holding all the cars, all the guards, all the earth, Wally Farrar, we hit the boulevard, your whole hot.
Hold me there before I get too high. I might melt the polar caps and flood your short dot. The sure shot Darell spits the pure hop. Then I hit the studio after the tour stops, while I bust melons down to the cerebellum. Lifelong lyrical felon, slave rebellion. Then Mark Bessie steady, leaving a mess. He never test me, I'm deadly, I swing like a machete. I'm ready like Freddy, my mic's lacerated. My man drops bass until they can't take it. I waited so many years before I made it. I meditated the weight of the earth evaporated. I'm metal plated, plus I'm just getting warm. I freak on the beat like a clockwork orange. I've been scorned since the day I was born. I'm unicorn, you don't wanna see me transform like
I thought I was in it to spin it, then I found out I was only in it for a minute. So I win it when I did it, and I did it when it's done. And I'm on the radio, and then I'm on the TV sun. So you come on, hear me, turn on your TV. I will be there every week easy. You can see me on a Friday at 8 or catch me today, cause I'm just about late. I have a date with you tomorrow. And then we're gonna do this go far. Everybody knew that I was a star. And now you can see it on your car, on your TV, on your screen.
No matter what go on, I'm still getting mine.
I said, God, thank you. Thank you for sending me this lady.
Check it. It's like I'm fighting for freedom. Writing for freedom. Yeah.
What's up, y'all? What's the deal? This is Freedom Williams. God, Freedom Williams from Freedom Williams Entertainment, CNC Music Factory. I just wanted to thank my girl, Poetica Bay, Dr. Poetica Bay, for, giving me this award, Gods of the Future, alongside my brother, Sadat X, Norman Connors. Sadat X is my brother. He's my brother from the nation. He's my brother. I love him dearly. And I'm just glad to be alongside him in anything. And, music has been a part of my life, and I want to thank those who have not only prayed to make music better and played to make music better, but make music better, just in general. So, just part of the Cypher, keeping that Cypher real, and keeping that Cypher going. I've been in many Cyphers. God King Son of Nine in the 80s used to have a whole lot of Cyphers. I've been in Cyphers at Zulu anniversaries, And the Cypher comes from the concept of building. When the gods would build, we would get in a Cypher and quote today's mathematics, So, you get in the Cypher and you go on your name, you say today's mathematics. For instance, my name is Freedom Williams, aka Born Freedom God of Law. Today's mathematics is balance equality, all being born of God, which is, today's mathematics, and we add on to how we see each day, because each day coincides with the 60-degree cycle of life. So, I'm really, really proud of Poetica for putting this thing together, actually helping to put it together with Carnegie Hall and the sister Sheree, the publisher, and everybody who put this thing together, because whenever you can do something conscious for the people and bring something together for the people, for the babies, you're doing something good. It's not always about materialism and money. It's not always about, awards, American Music Awards, Grammy Awards, Billboard Awards. It's about sometimes just getting the love from the people, which is how I see this particular award. So I just want to say, I can't really, I'm on an island right now in the Caribbean. It's kind of noisy on the other side, so I can't by the water, which is where I do my spiritual work as well. But I just wanted to say, I appreciate y'all. God bless y'all. Umar Ozdabal means God. Bless y'all. The Loa bless y'all. The Orisha bless y'all. The celestial beings bless y'all. And stay cultured, stay forward. Like we say in the movement, forward ever, backward never. And, always be things that you are. And again, I just want to say thank y'all, peace. And y'all have a great event. Hopefully I'll be back up top when that happens. But right now, you see I'm a little bit occupied with earthly done tour, so I'm going to get back to y'all on that, all right? Salute. Free Willie out.
Hi, my name is Livingston, and I am the founder of Livingstone Wellness, which is an all-natural skincare line. My products are sourced from Africa and the diaspora. A couple years ago, I found out that there was some cancer-causing agent in deodorant. So I wanted to create a product line that was all natural, that was handmade, that was made with love also. So it really started off with shea butter. It just went from there. So that's where we have Empress. And Empress was technically one of the first shea butters that I ever made. Empress has a glitter in it. It has crystals in it.
In my opinion, there are no great hip-hop acts with Afrofuturism at the moment because they're not getting the exposure, but I think they're slowly but surely making their way in it. And as I had told a friend of mine, I was like, yeah, I like the new acts, but none of them have reached the impact on the culture the way George Clinton in Parliament did. Because when Parliament and George Clinton went their height, people in middle school knew their music, back in the 70s. And so for a lot of the Afrofuturists, they have niches, but they have not had the breakaway star that's impacted the broad culture. I think that's probably occupied more in the cinematic form. What happened with the Black Panther film. So right now the people who are probably occupying that space now are in the film industry and not the music industry.
disagree. I feel as if we're missing the fact that a lot of our hip-hop artists express their science fictional and fantastical elements in their music videos. So even though the lyrics themselves might not be overtly, dealing with Afrofuturism, they're absolutely thinking about that when they collaborate with their film directors and create concepts for their music. I'm thinking of California Dreaming. If that's not some futuristic science fiction going on with Tupac and Dr. Dre, I don't know what is, right? I'm thinking about the work that Missy Elliott has done, and also Busta Rhymes has done throughout their careers. And I'm still waiting on Busta Rhymes to get his roses for his Video Genius Awards, or whatever the MTV calls them, because he should have been got it, to be honest. He's always been ahead in that regard. I'm thinking about even artists like A Tribe Called Quest, has, used a lot of over science fiction in their videos. Janet Jackson and Michael Jackson, not necessarily hip hop, but absolutely. Like, we're always exploring that in our music, in our short films. I think of the music videos as short films, but it's an accompaniment that gives you another way of thinking about the music you just heard, right? So there's that. And of course, if we're gonna move forward, I don't know what genre Janelle Monáe fits comfortably in. She's a border crossing, genre smashing artist in a lot of ways. But of course, every single album she's created has been intentional in playing with science fictional tropes and reimagining them and expanding those ideals for us. So there is that. In terms of who and what will, use these themes to take us further in terms of the art and the conversation, I'm waiting to see.
Be done true, I mean, your heart be a part of me. You're my space, odyssey, stars that align and invite me to shine in your mind, in your hair, particles everywhere. Just smell me, whisper to the atmosphere. Just tell me that you're almost here. My S.O.S.
We are very much living in a science fictional world all the time, particularly as Black people, all the time. I think it was John Akomfra who talked about, the Middle Passage or transatlantic slave trade as being like the first contact story, right? And so there's a lot of theory that has been written, art that has been doing a lot. I'm thinking of visual art that has been intentionally playing with and exploring science fictional concepts. But in terms of music, like Reynaldo was talking about, we are still faced with a distribution issue, right? If you're trying to be mainstream to some extent, we've had people like Soulja Boy and others who've shown us that you can, take some of this technology and be independent of it in a lot of ways and stream and get your access to the audiences in that way. But it still gets mainstream eventually, right? So what is the innovation, what are the explorations that we're going to be doing outside of that mainstream focus, and is that going to be supported by the audience, are we going to support that kind of experimentation? But we've always had it in our music, always had it. So yeah, I'm excited about the future.
I was just going to ask, where do you see the future of Afrofuturism? Where do you see it going, and do you have a goal for it, a projection for it, for the festival or with Carnegie Hall?
The festival is different from Afrofuturism. The festival is an exploration of music and working with over 70 community partnerships throughout New York City to create programming. So that's in all kinds of ranges, and it's from museums to dance companies to mom and pop community organizations. Like, we're right here in the Alice Fields Community Center in the Bronx, right? So it's bookstores and everything else you can think of. It's happening. But when you ask me about, and the goals of the festival was to present Afrofuturism in all its glory and all its different ways to the community. Introduce it to those who don't know anything about it, and give an opportunity for those who have been a part of that community and contributed to it for years and years to have a chance to celebrate it, you know, in these wonderful public spaces in their community, right? They don't have to fly somewhere else to do it. They can do it right here in New York City, which is a birth and home of a lot of Afrofuturist thought, right, for many years. The movement itself is international. It is global. And that's part of the work that Dr. Anderson has been doing with Black Speculative Arts Movement that he co-founded with the artist John Jennings, right? They have been all over the world, literally, discussing Black speculative arts, the power of it, the potential for it, and listening as well. So it's not like a didactic thing where you're just, you know, telling other people what to do. No, you travel, you listen to see what other communities are thinking about where they are, what the problems they're exploring, and how they're using their art, and how they're using their shared collective energy to solve those problems in real time and not in some far off future. So for me, it's not about there being a goal, a specific political goal for Afrofuturism, but the common thing that I've noticed, and this is from traveling with Black Speculative Arts Movement to Europe, and you know, we went to Germany to celebrate W. Du Bois, right? We went to Rome, Basque Country, Birmingham, UK, where they were beginning their Black Speculative Arts programming in the university and in the community. You've gone to Montreal and Toronto. From B. Sam, he came to Memphis where we had our celebration. Of course, his home was St. Louis. It's California. It's been all over the place. They have headquarters in Ghana. Our, you know, most exciting new chapter is in Brazil, right? You know, we'll be down there in November. It's just a lot that's happening. And what the common thread is that people want to be free now. People want to be healthy now. They want to be self-determined. They want to be able to forge a path for themselves. And they want to be able to express themselves freely, creatively. They want healthy families. They want economic justice. They want environmental justice. You know, they want political justice. That's a common thread everywhere we look. So the question of Afrofuturism is the question of Black lives in the world today.
Easy to find now. 7, 8 years ago, as one of the young people told me when we had an event, she thanked me for helping her find her tribe to a certain extent. And now, people who are interested in this kind of information, it's a lot easier to find groups of people dealing in this topic if you want to. I think 10 years ago, when everybody doing this work pretty much knew each other, and then between 2013 and 2016 is when a lot of it came together in terms of community organizations and events that were dealing with the topic. And then 2018, Panther was kind of like a big bang moment, global moment, where, as I remember saying at a conference, when I was talking with Sheree and her husband Danian on a panel, I saw a split coming. It was going to be the work that people do in the movement, that have been doing the work, that still work in the communities, and then people who work in higher education who just want to write stuff, you know, so they can get a promotion, you know, and they might have studied this stuff or looked at it maybe 6 months to a year and don't know anybody in the movement that well. I mean, one guy put a book out, had Afrofuturism on the cover, and when you look at all the citations, it didn't have any Afrofuturist writers in it. So I always classified it as a European analysis of Afrofuturism. You know, the guy was a political scientist. So you got some people, I'd say the last 36 months, you got to really look at the content. I would say the first thing you do, if you're going to go buy a book, go look at the references and citations in the book. And if you look in the references and if you don't see Ms. Thomas's name, my name, Natasha Womack, or whatever, just throw it back on the shelf because the person hadn't done the homework.
Certain communities aren't considered to be universal. They're the exotics, right? Your story is extra spice. But, you know, it's not actually a story that everyone in the world can relate to, which makes no sense because people are people, right? People are people. So in Afrofuturism, we've gotten to a point now where we're not at a critical mass, as Samuel Delaney would say. We haven't quite reached a critical mass, but we have reached enough where there's a backlash, right? Because two people talking is an uprising in the fields, right? You know, so you have more than one person doing something, and suddenly they start getting a little uncomfortable in those places where normally they are the ones that control it. Black stories are coming out in so many different ways, and it's very exciting to see people who might not have had a shot in a publishing company because they didn't know how to market the work. They don't know if we. When I was doing Dark Matter, researching in 1998 and 99 in the Schomburg Center for Research of Black Culture, that was my home away from home. In those archives, I knew that the people that I worked with every single day were not the good people to publish my book. I knew that just from having been working with them. This ideal that they didn't think Black people read or wrote science fiction, and I was from a family that read science fiction since before I was born. I was born into a house that had all of the science fiction books you can think of and horror, because they love Stephen King, you know, and they passed it on to me. You know, but we weren't a part of the bottom line. We were the invisible ones. And my family were working class, you know, so they're not going to, you know, we're not going to spend thousands of dollars to go to a science fiction convention. They couldn't afford that. They're not going to go stand in a long line and go get a book signed. They're going to read their book at home and keep it moving. And that author is going to make that money from that book. But we weren't considered part of the industry. So the first Dark Matter, a century, which I went back and found 100 years. No, there's 165 years at least of science fiction, Black science fiction in English on these shores, right? Rooted in the Black South, once again, the earliest is in the Black South. Because why? Because we're trying to get free. And freedom was a science fictional concept for Black people for a long time, right? So let's just be real about that. So when people are complaining about, oh, the Afrofuturism coming out of America is political, well, it needs to be to some extent to counter the actual reality that we're living in, right? Because to imagine a world that doesn't have a prison industrial complex is a science fictional concept. To imagine a world in which children are not being pushed into a pipeline of criminality from school is a science fictional concept, right? To have equal protection under the law and have it applied as such, you know, and not change because of your race or your gender is a science fictional concept in our country. So there's some basic things that we have to overcome on the page and make it a reality, which is actually science fiction when you think about it. You can find more about Sheree Renee Thomas, author of 9 Bar Blues, Stories from an Ancient Future at www.ShereeReneeThomas.com. Or you can find me on Twitter at Black Pot Mojo or on IG and Facebook at Sheree Renee Thomas.